Today on Slipping Time, parts we haven't seen yet. Welcome, and thanks for slipping some time with me today. This episode, we continue the series where we restore this 1989 Lotus Esprit Turbo. The previous episodes basically started with the ground zero of restoring this car, and you may want to go back and watch those to catch up a bit. Don't worry, this episode will be waiting for you when you get to it, but if you want to get into the, I wouldn't call it the middle, but into the progress of it, that's where this episode is right now. I'm going to take out some parts, take down some parts that are up there that were out in my shed, and talk about them. No one has seen these parts yet, but because they were actually off the car before I even got started. When I bought the car, they were off it already. So I'm going to take those down, and we're going to show you kind of where they go and maybe some of the work they need to do and some of the look that it'll have. I'm going to show you on the rear of how I'm going to get that back and the parts I've got to do that. I also have some questions that I put out there answered based on some of the comments and some of the messaging you gave me, as well as my own research. So thank you for that, and let's get to it. This is the lower back piece for the rear. The exhaust tips come out here, and as you can see, there's two, and if you have the stock, you're only going to have exhaust come out of one of them, but I might still do a split exhaust just to have the symmetry. One thing I might do that's different than stock, but I don't think it takes away. I think it adds to it, to be honest. And this it's an interesting piece I got to figure out, because you can see the side markers here. They filled them in, and then they put some different ones here. So I got to figure out what I've got for this and what this is going to look like and what to put back. So yeah, some more stuff that they did for whatever reason. This goes above that exhaust molding. So we'll show you around up here a little bit. This is the engine cover. I'm just going to leave that up here for now. We've got some of the back end stuff that goes in. Door cards. So the previous owner, as you can tell, was stocking up on parts, and I thank him a lot for that. He definitely was planning to do a lot with this car, and it's going to save me some time and money to get all these extra parts as well. In here we have the shifter boot and the shifter. Your little things in here. Looks like a spare injector and clip might be in here somewhere. It's the spare tire that it comes with. Anti-sway bar over there. We can see right there, there looks like some spare mechanisms for the window. More little pieces in here. This is a spare gauge pod. It's the wooden one, but it's got some cracks in it, you can see. But it's spare gauges anyway. I'll probably keep the black one. If we open this up, that's the clutch cable that I don't need to buy now because I got one. I'm not sure which cable this one is. If it's for the hatch, I'll have to look that one up. Timing belt. I think it's a heavy duty one. A couple little parts. That's for underneath the boot, I guess, for the shifter. some spare parts there. Looks like for the signal levers. Yeah, there's a spare mirror, which I do need one. I'll have to see what some of these parts are. Yeah, so got some stuff there. As I said, I do have the stock rims right here, and they're going to go back on for sure, as long as I can find tires for them. The Toyota proper lights. Okay, let's show you the difference in what we got to do with this. So this is what the rear looks like without the lights, and this is the mess they made. You can see, I think here, that where the exhaust comes out, the exhaust tips, if you got dual, it's right here. But yeah, you can see the cutouts in comparison, and this here, it's in there. Can it fit there? Well, it's got a bit of a slot left, but they raised this, and I'll show you a side view here, but they raised this out, this lip, it's different. That fits in there. And then where these slots are for these lights, right there, goes like so. And you can see, as I do these indent in. That's all flush now in there, so these got to be carved out, and that'll fit in something like that. So that's what I'm up against on that. I got a lot of work to do here once I start looking at it, but I have to change that because, quite honestly, those are just ugly. So just to see the side view of how this comes in. Well, that isn't good, is it? Okay, let's try this again. You can see how this fits in there and how that's flush. Also, when I was talking about this lip, you can see how deep that is. Well, they've filled this in. So that's all been filled in to some degree. So that's going to take a little time. Yeah. You'll also notice that this seam here is filled in on this one. I'm going to be okay with that, just leaving that. I can still cut this out and leave that the way it is. That's cool. It's okay. And we've got this wing to paint right here, and it goes on. Wow. So it will have a wing back here. So my shop is a complete mess right now. There's interior pieces. Yeah, I showed you this. Well, that's contained. I've put the target top back on and the hood for now. I got all that stuff there. Tanks, interior parts, more parts here, something there. I showed you all what's up there. Doors right there. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of parts. You wouldn't think this little Lotus has that much stuff in it. It does. And it's all got to go back in. But first, it's got to get all cleaned up and renewed or new. And this doesn't even include the chassis and all the stuff that's on that that's got to be removed and redone. This is just the body stuff. Yeah. So I have mentioned it before, but the windshield is cracked, so that's got to be replaced. Once I remove that, before I put it in, I'm going to recover this guy right here because it folds in actually where it seals in for the windshield there. So not that I want to have to replace the windshield, but I have to replace the windshield. If I come over here and show you the fill filler, I've mentioned I'm going to put these back to stock. If you look at a stock car though, there's actually body lines in here that have been filled. And as far as I can tell, they've been filled anyway. But yeah, So it's going to look a little different when I put the flaps in here. I'm not putting those body lines in. I'm not going to go that far. I don't think anybody will notice. And to be honest, I think it filled in actually looks a little nicer, even though that's not going to be stock. I had some questions about whether this should remain black or not, or if it's yellow if I paint it yellow. It is in fact black. That's what my research showed, so we'll leave that black. Same thing with the bonnet under it. That remains black, that's black, and then what you see yellow will be yellow. But I'm going to go with a deeper yellow, just so you know. And a very interesting one, I have found out from people with factory paint jobs that the bolts in here are in before it's painted in the factory. So it must be they're worried about it painting being underneath there. And well, this wouldn't matter because this is an insert. But up here, they may worry about it cracking the paint when they when they torque up the bolt, basically. And now I got to decide whether I'm going to go that far or not. I prefer to have them out and then paint and then put the bolts in. May go that way. Haven't heard anybody advise against it because I want to paint inside behind here, even though no one actually sees it because it's all covered up. I just want to make sure everything's painted and clean the way it should be. In my opinion, better than factory, of course, but this is a restoration, but it's also make it better if I can and make it nicer. And that's what I'm going to do. So there you have a lot of parts that I haven't showed you yet. In fact, I've never dug them out to see how they fit. I discovered some parts that I didn't realize I had, such as the clutch line and a couple other things in the timing belt that I think I did know I had that, but there's definitely some stuff I didn't realize I had, and I got to go through more of that stuff because I don't want to double order things if I don't need them and go through that. So that was a nice surprise. Yeah, there is definitely a lot to do in this car. I just wanted to show you all the pieces of the car that are involved in getting this thing painting, so you know what people are up against when they do restoration, and if you plan on doing one yourself. On this car or others, there's a lot to do, as you can tell. I enjoy doing it, to be honest, and if you enjoy it and have the patience, think of it as like a puzzle, except you got to make the pieces shine a bit. You got to sometimes make the pieces, in fact, but you got something in the end, and you're going to be pretty proud of this when you're done. Whenever you're done. This is going to take a long time, as you can tell, for one person to do, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool, I think. So what's next, you're wondering? Well, I'm going to have to start figuring out what I need to get for parts. So I'm not going to send it away for painting because I'm not going to do the painting. I don't paint enough to do the job I want on this because of the car it is. I could do some cars, but I'm not going to do it for this one because this is pretty special. So I'm going to have a really good painter take care of this. I may work out with how I'm going to do the rear end and change that out and put the flaps in and may do some of that work. But before I get it painted, I want to have all the pieces ready. So I got to order the door flaps. But I'm not going to order just a few pieces, especially when they're across the pond in the UK, most of them, where I want to get them. And I want to make the order count. So I've got a big order probably coming up, and I got to work through a lot of the parts that I need before I can do that. So that's probably going to be some of the work I'm going to do next, is to figure out all the parts that I'm going to need as far as the body goes. Now, I haven't done anything on the chassis yet and the engine, and I'm going to need parts for that too. So I may do 2 separate orders, or I may wait to do it all. But it is going to be nice if I could get this body out of the shop just to get some room while it's painted. So I might just do 2 orders and then work on the chassis and take the engine out and do some of that work. And then keep the videos rolling as well. So that's what the plans are in the future episodes on this particular series. Of course, I don't just do Lotuses. I have DSMs, I have Comet GT, and I've got some other cars and some other things that I'll do in videos as well. So make sure you subscribe, like, hit the bell as well if you could, and share with anybody that might like this sort of thing. They might be interested in it, and pass it along if you could. And of course, enjoy every day and always make it right.